If you'd like help in growing your own YouTube channel faster, apply for coaching with me using the link in the description below.
Too many people use men's health as an excuse to do shitty things. You know, I see too many men that treat women shitty and then blame it on their childhoods. Or eventually, as a point, you need to understand you're a man. Like, you have control of your life. You can sit here and blame your childhood or your past traumas or any other thing you want for how shitty you are, but you're still gonna be a shitty person. You're still gonna be hurting all the people around you. You know, so at some point you need to take grasp of it and just be like, I'm gonna be a better person. At no point in your life can you not reinvent yourself.
Because you represent like the shaman elemental coach.
Call it my rising social confidence due to a better physique, or maybe just the fact that I was on 15 days of NoFap when I introduced myself, but earlier this week, I saw Tony upside down on the rings at our gym, and I had the instinct to go up to him and ask him why he was inverted. 4 minutes later, I realized I'd come across one of the most charismatic people I've ever met. After years of building on size and strength as a football player, Tony had sustained a back injury that put him out for months. The recovery from this led him down the path of the Viking shaman, and that's not a hyperbole. He's actually a descendant of Ragnar Lothbrok on his mother's side. I started working with Tony on the weak parts of my training, using bands and bear crawls to train in a more primal way, to build up the stabilizers, and to become a better athlete. On today's episode of the podcast, we cover the importance of creating an empowering narrative for yourself, on staying resilient, and honestly, on how we as men can avoid becoming pussified. This might be my favorite episode so far. Roll that intro.
What it do, what it does, where you been, where you was, but it ain't what it is. Face in the mud, I really be hating in the mud. Said I can't pick it up, but I did. Y'all know Goon put too much bass in the sub. Cup full of blood and I gave it a chug. Wait till your neighbors get all snug, then play this real loud where you live.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the Captain Sinbad YouTuber Group Coaching Academy. I have been taking on one-on-one clients for 7 months now and helping them grow their YouTube channels. I learned a lot in this process, and many of my clients have seen amazing success. One of my clients, Michael Drift, who I'm sure many of you have seen his video, The Brainwashed Cult of Hamza, is starting to get his first several brand deals and will very shortly here be getting to 5 figures a month on YouTube just through AdSense and brand deals, which is amazing to see. My client David, a client of mine, Aiden, his cinematography has improved in spades. And yet I can only take on so many one-on-one clients. And so much of what I've covered with my one-on-one clients, I've packaged into a 12-module course and a group coaching academy that goes with it. In this academy, I'll be taking on 50 students to work with, where we talk about the process of getting great click-through rate and great watch time on a video. Clients like Michael and David, they show that you don't actually need a bunch of subscribers up front, like 10,000 subscribers or 100,000 subscribers, to actually get great views on YouTube today. YouTube rewards individual videos. So if you can speed up the pace at which you make great videos and have great watch time, especially in your videos will perform well. In the course and the academy, we'll cover things like content strategy, how to have different content phrases inside your video so that you can deliver things like A-roll, B-roll, vlog footage, voiceover, street interviews, all these formats, the comedy sketch format, incorporate all of them into a fantastic edit with speed so you can actually turn around amazing videos in record time, but also like more etheric ideas, like how to speak with more authenticity. Because the thing that a lot of new YouTubers struggle with is that they end up performing. They end up performing like they're talking to like a class full of 5th graders rather than delivering something really real and saying the truth with a capital T. I've done what I've done over 4 years. You could probably get there so much faster than me if you just applied the insights I've learned over these last 4 years. If that's something that interests you, if you're trying to speed up the growth of growing your own YouTube channel and turning it into a 5-figure per month business, there's an application form in the description box. You and I can actually just get on a call and see if the program is good for you. So if that's interesting to you, check it out. But with that being said, let's start the podcast.
No, it's actually interesting that that transition of friendship when you tell a man that he has some shit in his beard or face or he has a booger. Yeah. It's almost like, man, you did something that a lot of people didn't do that walked past me today. We're closer now. And I was like, that was an intimate moment. All right, moving on.
I found you very intimidating. This is like a fucking classic trope of me because obviously I've been going to Campiones for like 8 months now.
Yep.
And I don't know, you're just so manly looking.
I appreciate it.
And you don't really
I do identify as a man, believe it or not. Yeah. So I appreciate it. I work very hard on that.
Yeah, you're not woke enough to identify as anything other than a man.
No, just a man. a slightly dark man.
Yeah. Dude, I feel like that's why we're kindred soul spirits here, you know? We're both slightly dark men.
Team light skin, go hard.
Yeah, team light skin. Team mocha chocolate, you know? You look tough, you know? You look focused. And then every once in a while, I would hear your cackle.
Yeah, the signature TM Tony.
Yeah.
Like I said before, they hear me before they see me.
Yeah.
A lot. I genuinely don't try to be intimidating at all. I've just become so cynical and jaded of seeing people do stupid shit in the gym. Honestly, that's one of my big things. I'm just tired of seeing people make the same mistakes over and over and over again. Tired of seeing trainers repeat the same mistakes just for money over. Like, for example, man, I'm not going to say any names simply because I don't want to get you in trouble at our gym.
Yes.
But we have an IFBB pro girl the other day. I didn't watch her, you know, not creepily stare at her.
This is,
but she rolled out her IT band for like 5 whole minutes. And that's something that's in like the first page of your shitty beginner personal trainer book not to do. And I'm just like, man, this woman made it all the way to a professional bodybuilder doing shit wrong. And it's honestly incredible. And I'm like, how many clients have you messed up? Because through your genetics, you can do whatever you want. You can eat some food, take some steroids, go on stage, you'll look great. But the 45-year-old woman with 200 ACL, she can't follow those same rules. So a lot of that jadedness is just tired of seeing people doing stupid shit all the fucking time.
Yeah. Do you feel like people who you don't encounter right away, like you form a friendship with someone later on or they get to know you, do you kind of get this a lot where you kind of have, because you're big and muscular and I mean, when you smile, you look very welcking. But no, you have a tough demeanor, and you said you were a bouncer in your early days too.
Yep. I used to work security. I hate the whole term. I had a rough childhood and all that stuff. But I was a single child. I was the oldest of all my cousins, though. I have two uncles that are almost like that big brother age of 10 years older than me that kind of toughened me up and picked on me a lot. And honestly, I've been blessed to have the right type of figures in my life. I never had like a consistent, like my mom wasn't in my life a lot, but I had a little bit of my grandfather who's just like, you know, wise anthropologist, and my uncle who's a really hard-nosed Midwestern dude. So I just kind of lucked out with my male figures of not having anybody that really wanted me to be weak or be pussified. And my mom kind of had this thing where she was like, you're going to be a man one day. I can't raise you to be a man. So she gave a hands-off approach. One of my things is I always say pain is the greatest teacher. Instead of telling me not to touch the stove, she'd let me touch the stove. Burn your hand. See that it hurt. It ain't going to kill you. Burn your hand. I learned how to swim by falling in a pool when I was 3. Yeah, that's my first water experience. Yeah, and ended up not drowning. That's how I got here today. So honestly, it was just being allowed to explore and not being over-parented. And I think that is where a lot of this intimidation people see come from, because I'm not trying to intimidate anybody. I'm just very confident in what I'm doing because I've been doing my thing for so long. Where a lot of people, they don't start doing their own thing until maybe they're 18 when they go to college. Some people, they don't start doing their own thing until they're 22 when they're finished with college. Their parents are still overbearing. Some of them don't do their own thing until they're 30 when they finally get married because the church and all these other things have been in their life. So I just been blessed with the opportunity to make my mistakes a little earlier than most people.
Did that ever feel like harsh? Like you're like, oh, I wish I would have been coddled a little more?
And so it's a double-edged sword. One, obviously, yes, I wish I had both parents and a nice upbringing and all these other things. But when I got to college and I could cook myself a whole meal and all my roommates are struggling to microwave Hot Pockets, I'm like, all right, now it's paying off. Yeah. I always joke, my mom prepared me for a world far worse than this one. Thank you, Mama. Yeah, that's nice. Because now I don't struggle nearly as much as a lot of people. So in the beginning, yes, it was very hard, but now it's a lot easier. Now, that being said, obviously not everyone's going to react to it the same way. Can I tell you a story?
Yeah, totally.
There's a ancient Chinese proverb that I really, really like. So a man, he has a farm in China, right? And he has all these horses. And one day, one of his horses runs away. This big stallion, his best horse runs away. So all the village people come to the farmer and they say, hey man, we're very sorry about your horse. You know what the farmer says? Maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
The next day, the horse comes back. It's got 5 more wild horses with him. Now he's come up 5 horses, right? So this is a great thing. Now he's got more 5 horses. The villagers all come back. They say, hey, congratulations on your horses. This is a great thing. You got your horse back. You got 5 more. This is awesome. He says, yeah, maybe. The next day, his oldest and his favorite son, obviously oldest son, your favorite, no one what anybody says. Yeah. His oldest son tries to break in one of the new wild horses and breaks his leg, right? It bucks him off. He breaks his leg. Now, back then, that's a big deal. We didn't have modern surgery and all that stuff, or the Western medicine me and your boy were talking shit about a couple seconds ago. So a broken leg's a big deal. All the villagers come back and they say, hey, we're really sorry about your son, right? And he once again says maybe. The The next day, and the last day of this story, I know it's getting a little long.
No.
The Chinese conscripts come and they say, hey, the Han army is invading. We need the first son from every single family to go fight. And guess who doesn't have to go?
He doesn't have to go, yeah.
Exactly. So instead of being like, oh, my childhood was so terrible, it made me a better person in the long run. So it's all about how you react to these situations. And the point I was trying to make here is there's a lot of people that have lived childhoods like mine that end up being bad people. For example, I saw my mom do a lot of drugs and drink a lot as a kid. I don't do any drugs or drink. Some people say I do drugs and drink because I saw my parent do it. I say I don't do it because I saw them do it. I saw the negativity it had to it. So it's not, I don't necessarily think that my childhood was good or bad, but my reaction to it was better than most.
Yeah, no, you seem very well organized about the narrative of your life, and you choose to go with the most empowering storyline.
Exactly.
Which is
yes, sir.
fucking badass, because I have always I didn't mean to do this, but like in my later years I saw myself as a victim of my own childhood, even though my parents have been amazing. I guess one of the biggest chips on my shoulder had been like my perceived idea that my parents, my dad especially, didn't believe in me as an actor. Something I told him to his face like a month ago. Like I yelled it to his face, man. I felt so weird. Like it just came out of me because I'm almost 30 and I've never had that conversation with my dad.
Right.
And you and I were talking about this after a little kickboxing Muay Thai session this morning. You were like, you know, great men rarely have great sons because it took some trauma, it took some battle for that man to become great. And his son, if he's a great man, he's going to give his son a good life. And the son's going to end up being weak. And I was like, man, I totally agree with that. I wonder where I fall into that storyline, because my father is a great man. And yet I'm definitely the son of a great man. Like I'm not as dope as my dad was. My dad was like a village boy who like made it out like out of pure will and like determination, like hunter mode. Like he doesn't bench press or anything, but he's a killer in his own right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe part of the reason my dad was so tough on me is because he was trying to guard against that, you know?
Oh,
so,
100%. That's actually something I was thinking about after we left.
Yeah.
Is number one, realizing that your parent is a person, not your parent, right? They're an individual human being with all the same flaws and traumas that you went through. Maybe not the same, but they went through all the same flaws and traumas and all the insecurities. So they're not necessarily someone, their entire life goal isn't to make sure that you're going to turn out. They're just trying to figure shit out themselves half the time. And with your father, I was thinking he's probably just trying to find a way where he can be there for you, but simultaneously not turn you into a pussy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that probably does do, like that text that you posted. Hey, Dad, you want to go golfing? Sure. All right, now send me the fucking thing for your insurance and make sure we got all this shit together. That's classic right there, right?
That's classic.
Yes, I need to be there for myself. Oh, I can't be too soft, though. Going to make sure he stays in line. So I was like, I think that that's definitely what's going on there, is he's just doing his best to make sure that you turn out great without turning you into a pussy, too, which is dang near the hardest job. I mean, we know from the quote itself, show me the son of a great man, I'll show you a man who's great. And you turn out pretty fucking good. So you're definitely good job.
Thanks, bro. Yeah, this idea of the pussification or beta-ization of the modern male, you laugh, but this is literally what the episode is going to be titled.
Fair enough.
I love how we go into these not knowing what the title is, and then I'm so like acclimated to the YouTube algorithm. I'm like, title, you know, I'm like, oh, he's talking about this. This is what we're going to call this one. It's going to get
this
clicks.
Is your world, brother.
Yeah, this is going to get clicks. But I mean, you strike me. I don't know you that well. I literally reached out to you earlier this week because I saw you upside down on some rings and I was like, I kind of want this, whatever this is. Like, I don't know why he's doing this, but I want to like work with the rings a bit, and I want to have a tighter core. I want a new element to my training,
right? Just
because I want to be well-rounded. But you strike me as a very strong man. Like, you know, do you think guys today, do you think there's been a movement where it's like, it's not as easy for guys to be in their masculine as much?
I think there's a lot of issues. No, number one, I hate to say that taking bullying out of our society is a bad thing, but I do think that has allowed a lot of So bullying as a kid, obviously, I have never seen anyone like get their face shoved in a locker or like wedgies or any stuff like that. Bullying would be like, hey man, you smell bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, why do you always smell bad when we hang out, dog? Like, yeah, bro, you always stink. Obviously, that sucks. You know, but at some point, as a 13, 14, 15-year-old boy, if somebody tells you you smell bad and you get rid of it, now you have the rest of your fucking life where you don't smell bad, right? But I meet grown men today that smell bad. And I'm like, this is incredible. Because we have this society, I mean, this is obviously an example, but we have this society of you have to be careful of everyone's feelings. You can't say anyone insults them. You've done this man a disservice and you allowed him to become 35 years old and he smells like dog shit in fucking public. You know what I'm saying? Whereas like if you had a little bit of bullying, which me personally, I mean, we're primates, we're social, we're going to check each other. That's normal, you know? So to take away the kind of thing that allowed us to check each other and make everybody kind of uniform and playing by the same rules, I think that hurt a lot. And obviously men's health is very important, but too many people use men's health as an excuse to do shitty things. You know, I see too many men that treat women shitty and then blame it on their childhood. It's kind of like what we were talking about before, where eventually as a point, you need to understand you're a man. Like you have control of your life. You can sit here and blame your childhood or your past traumas or any other thing you want for how shitty you are, but you're still going to be a shitty person. You're still going to be hurting all the people around you. You know, so at some point you need to take grasp of it and just be like, I'm going to be a better person. At no point in your life can you not reinvent yourself. You don't have to be the same person you were the day before. So I think for a lot of people, it's stop using those same old excuses. And honestly, people need to have thicker skin and toughen up a little bit, man. I mean, if somebody tells you you stink, they ain't telling you you suck. They're telling you need to smell better. And I believe you can smell better. Not you specifically. You smell great.
Dude, I actually needed to hear that one. I was in a relationship where I was kind of the abuser a little bit. You know, I didn't mean to be. I didn't know what I was doing intentionally, but I just wasn't honest 100%. You know, I was too scared to be totally honest. And based off of our plan of like working things out, I got a therapist. And the therapist was like, "Oh man, your parents were so rough on you. I've never seen an inner critic as harsh as yours. You're like super tough on yourself." And I was like, "Yeah, but I did this with this girl. Like that was not cool." And he was like, "No, but you know, you were honest eventually, right? Like all this stuff." And he was like, "Really?" And I was like, I feel like I was a fucking shitty person in this situation. And he's telling me I'm okay. And he's like blaming it on my childhood trauma for me. And I was like, I don't really resonate with this. I'm like, I mean, I have to take accountability for this, and moving forward, you know, that's a lesson to me. That was a part of my transition from being like more immature to who I am now.
Let's touch base on the honesty thing, because that is something that I think we all really struggle with. So one thing I've learned with honesty, and this is something I've struggled with a lot, is the anxiety of worrying about telling the truth is worse than telling the actual truth. That's the one thing that makes me tell the truth now, because I've lied a lot, especially to women when I was in college and I was younger, and I would create all these elaborate stories and all these things. And I was like, man, it took more energy and it hurt me more to do all that shit than just to be upfront. You know, so for me, it wasn't like looking back on, was it right or wrong? Yeah, it was wrong. I lied. It was wrong. There's no if, and, or but it. What you did was wrong. But the lesson you learned from it wasn't telling the truth easier than just sitting there and lying to her over and over and over again? As long as you learn that lesson, it's in the past. The damage is done. There's no reason to worry about the damage. Just be better for the next person. You know, because the only thing that matters is we learn from our mistakes, not whether we made the mistake. The mistake's in the past. Unless you got a time machine over there, we could hop in and, you know, you be honest with the girl. There ain't no point in worrying about whether it was right or wrong. It was fucking wrong. You know? It is what it is. We all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. Shit. Gandhi was trying to sleep with little girls, apparently.
He was,
MLK
man.
cheated on his wife. All right. All men make big fucking mistakes, but the whole point is to be better from them. As long as you're not repeating the mistakes, it's all good, baby.
Yeah, what you described though, it's not really bullying. It's like getting checked by a guy.
Yeah,
it's like men sizing each other up.
I call it love.
Yeah,
it's the ultimate form of love.
But sometimes, you know, Thomas and I behind the scenes, we're kind of shit talkers. You know, like I wouldn't say it's bullying outright, because we would never say some of these things to people's face. Basically, other YouTubers in my niche, sometimes I think they're just such fucking bitches, because they're like the B-roll that they get. Still, B-roll is like, you know, just footage that you're shooting that's not just talking. I don't know, I'm just saying just in case. It's just like, it's self-help YouTube. So it's like men laying on their couch pretending to be like depressed, like for the footage. And I'm like, I hope you realize you look fucking lame. Like, you look lame. Now, I wouldn't say this. I've actually already said too much, because some viewers aren't going to know who I'm talking about. But
I had a similar moment. I was in the gym and I saw this guy, and I ain't going to say he's a modern beta male, but he was sending a lot of the signals. And the thing that was like most drastic for me was he was literally working out and he was reading a men's self-help book while working out. And I remember looking at it and I was like, that is one of the lamest things I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, I don't know why, but it was like, bro, you are trying so hard right now. So hard right now. And like we were talking about before, the best way to get women is by not trying. So to come to the gym and get your pump out and do all this stuff and then have the men's self-help book and try to look, like Christian Bale and Batman looking all rugged and stuff. I'm like, man, you're just doing way too much. It's almost like embarrassing for like the entire male gender. I was like, this is what we're doing now. Reading self-help books at Los Campeones, trying to, impress bikini models staring at their ass in the gym. I'm like, we can do better. We can definitely do better.
I think what it is like, for me, it's the difference between just doing stuff that is real. Like, I mean, what like, what's great about being jacked or fit like you, or like, I'm definitely getting much fitter a year in, is like anything that I say that's like self-help advice now, because I have a kind of like, the branding is at its core, it's like a self-help branding, and we have comedy and we have cinematography and other elements in there, but it really is like personal development. But what's nice about me making personal development content this year, as opposed to like a year ago, I was waking up at like 10 a.m. from a hangover after like simping over a girl who didn't like me that much. And then I'd go on and try to make YouTube videos and still work my corporate day job at the same time. And now, I mean, I just like suffer every day, or I like push myself really hard every day in the gym for a couple hours. And then when I work with much greater focus. Part of it is the clarity of like the gym and cleaning up my diet and all this stuff. And then I take on endeavors and skills and risks and invest in the business in ways that are like courageous. It's a lot easier to be actually a personal development YouTuber this year, but I also don't have to fucking like get B-roll of me laying in my couch like pretending to play a video game, because it's just real. Like my self-help journey, it's real this year. And I think you strike me as like just a super, super real guy. Like, I think it's a little bit unusual. You probably don't realize this because you're just living your own life, but everything you say is true.
People have told me I'm a giant asshole for a long time.
Really?
Since honestly, even when I was a little kid, I struggled to have friends because I'm not a yes man. Like, if you're doing something I think is bad, I'm like, dog, you shouldn't be doing this. This is not good for you. And be like, you should just be a friend and be supportive. I was like, I don't know what fucking type of friends you got. This is fucking stupid. So I've always just been that type of way. And it wasn't until I hit my like later 20s now that it's really started to pay off. And people are starting to see like, oh, like you do need real people in your life. But I mean, I'm sure you went to college, people just want people to say yes to you and drink with you all the time, so it honestly was a struggle a long time until now I get to meet people that want to help themselves and develop themselves more. Now people want somebody like me in their life. But when you're growing up and all you want is a yes man, I got ostracized for being this way. I probably should have toned it down a bit, but hey, I am who I am. I don't really see it as, I see it as a very useful thing. Now I see it very useful for someone. I'm not like in a high position or anything, but more than ever, there are people who are like nice to me because they want to like get something out of me. It's really weird. Sometimes people will like get on calls with me, people who I thought were like colleagues or friends. They're like, we haven't caught up in so long. Like, of course we should catch up. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's great. And being a YouTuber, like, you spend a lot of time alone actually. And so I'd be like, oh, cool, yeah, let's catch up. And then 15 minutes into the conversation, I'm like, oh, this is a business call. Like, you needed something. They honey-dicked you. They honey-dicked you. Yeah, I just want to talk. And yo, can I get on the channel? What's going on? Maybe got a lot of views.
That's exactly it, dude. That's exactly it.
Oh, sorry, but to backtrack, one of the things I noticed too about you're talking about being fit and the amount of respect it gets you. Yeah. Especially working in the clubs, because I run into a lot of artists and a lot of people with lots of what they call wealth, but I wouldn't call it wealth, but a lot of materialistic things in life. The one thing that they can't buy is that 12-mile run you went on yesterday. They can't buy the body that I have. They can't buy the skills that we have acquired, or the self-confidence or the self-love that we've built up. You can buy clothes, you can buy cars. These days you can buy women, and you can try to go to the surgeon, but the only way you can really get these things is by earning it. Yeah. Right. And I think that's what people really respect, is that we are earning these things. Whereas a lot of people, they just try to think of daddy's money can't buy you that 12-mile run yesterday. You got to go out there and get that motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that's going to get you a lot more respect than anything daddy's money can buy somebody. Dude,
I was feeling this. I almost had this existential crisis. So I just bought a fancy car. I bought a Porsche. Okay.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Thanks, man. It had been a dream brand of mine for many years. Obviously, I'm fucking egotistical. I bought it for like some version of the Flex.
I got a Challenger. Don't worry, you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah. But like when I was a very broke teacher, I would see all these rich parents drive by in that car, in the Porsche, and it just somehow it really appealed to me. So it's like, honestly, I swung that car like just out of fulfilling that 25-year-old, like, I'm not broke anymore. I needed to prove that to myself. But driving home from the dealership from that car, I felt kind of sad because I almost was going to get the story of like me in the car, and I'm like, this is so lame. Like, I'm trying to impress people with a car. Like, that's not impressive at all. That's so pathetic. It's like you said, the run is actually a way deeper source of pride for me. I didn't even run it that fast, to be honest, but I worked pretty hard for it.
Ran it though.
Yeah. Like, I knew I suffered pretty hard for that run, especially by mile 11. Like, it was just like all gone, you know? And I think value comes from effort and like self-knowledge, you know, like that's, and everyone that's just the value you cannot fake. Everything else, like, you can kind of fake it. Like, you can actually get the car, and who knows what the monthlies are, you know, like the government, the bank could own that car and you're just driving it around. But, you know, like, you can't fake effort. And even now, I'm just like, I'm trying to dig more in that direction. I almost am like, why'd I get this car? What a waste. Like, I should push more in that direction.
No, honestly, meeting you and working with you training, I'm more impressed that you didn't bitch during the 1-inch bear crawls we did as a warm-up than anything I've seen here.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Oh.
That's one of the things when I train somebody, it's almost like a first date / job interview, except you don't get to ask any fucking questions.
Yep.
It's all on me. So going with you through that first session, that was one of the things where I gained a lot of respect for you as a man, as you didn't complain. I even did stupid stuff, like I would miscount on purpose and make you do an extra rep in the middle of you setting the weight down, and you would just do it right away. And I'm just like, nice. He's not a little bitch. Nice. I like that. I like that, because a lot of people have these insecurities. Like, a lot of people, they'll start stalling, or they'll ask stupid questions where they get tired. Anything to get away from the effort that we were just talking about. But you just kept pushing. You kept going. Didn't make any excuse. And I was like, man, he's got a really abusive Indian father, or he's just a tough mentally guy.
Dude, that's so funny, because I heard the miscounts. I'm like, oh, but I was like, I was like,
yeah, I'm a great trainer, terrible counter. What can I say?
Yeah. That's savagery. I want to take a little pivot here. One of the first things that we started doing was like kind of like spine decompression and like core work. I want to ask you, like, what inspired you to be more interested in, like, rather than just pushing mad weight, you care about mobility and strength in the core and all this other stuff. What led you down that path?
So I ain't gonna talk about this too much, just because, you know, it's a little bit away from your question, but we talked about how a big issue with a lot of trainers that have this type of physique and are just overly gifted physically, and then they get into training, is they only know how to train athletes like themselves. And until you suffer some type of injury, you don't know anything but being an A+ athlete. So for me, I started wrestling when I was 5. I started playing football 2 years after that. I've been lifting weights and working out every offseason since I was 12 and never had any problems, right? Until I got to college. Then finally, all those years of grinding, eventually something gave out on my back. I had a herniated disc. And we were talking a little bit about Western medicine before, and what I've learned from Western medicine and my experience with the herniated disc is they give you a couple options: opiates or surgery. Neither of them were on the table for me. I don't know if we talked about this. My mother, she struggled with opiates during my childhood, and surgeries just seem to lead to more surgeries, especially in your young 20s. So I sat there in nerve pain for about 90 days and realized, like, holy shit, man, if you don't have your health, nothing really matters.
Yeah.
You know, because I went from being Superman to barely being able to stand up straight. And so once I got back into the gym, I was like, man, I don't care about squatting or benching a lot. I just want to be able to walk again, you know? And that's really what led me down the path of what was I doing wrong? You know, and a lot of it was I was focused on my chest muscles, my arms, my legs, all the muscles that look cool in the mirror and look good for girls. You know, just thinking like the powerhouse and the engine of your car, you know, but I did nothing for my suspension, my brakes, my core, anything inside. And then that is why my back fell apart. So that's why I was saying earlier, pain is the greatest teacher. If I never experienced that pain at 19, 20 years old, I never would have acquired all of this plethora of knowledge that I've used to help every single one of my clients. I have not had one client that hasn't come to me with like, yeah, I got some type of back pain or some type of hip issue. And I never would have been able to answer those questions if I didn't go through the pain myself. So through physical pain and being broken down is why I prioritize those things, simply because I don't want Nicole to have nerve pain the same way I did.
Dang. Yeah. So you had me kind of like doing you got me upside down on hooks, like the spine decompression.
The immersion boots, yep, Batman stuff.
I'm excited to keep going with it. And my triceps the next day, you also, all this footage is going to go in the intro, but you had me like working with bands, kettlebells on bands.
Yep.
And I was like, it wasn't even heavy weight. You know, I was like, oh, this is going to be fine. And then I was shaking as it was going up. And then my triceps, like right now, my triceps are sore from that. So it's like,
I find that there's many planes of motion, and adding instability to your workout is another way to challenge yourself. Now, I never think that you should put on 225 on bench press with a whole bunch of kettlebells swinging all over the place. I mean, that's doing a little bit too much. But stuff like what we're doing, it's very good to help develop the core and develop the brake system. So that way, when you do punch pads with Austin, or you do kick the bag with me later, or you do whatever you want, you go on those runs, you're not getting a dang cramp in your side and your lat right here because you didn't work out your core at all, you know?
Yeah.
So a lot of my stuff is to make sure that you're able to have as much fun as you want in life. Does that make sense?
No, totally, man. Also, can I ask, what is this bead around you? Like, what is the symbol here?
This is a Tibetan mala, or mala. Yeah,
mala.
Tibetan mala.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my uncle, he's actually the reason I got this Asian dragon right here.
Nice.
And he's one of the main reasons I'm so well spoken. This dude, man, he had me reading The Prince of Machiavelli, Plato's Republic, Sun Tzu's Art of War when I was like 10 years old. Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with him. And so when he was over there, he got this, he gave it to me. And, you know, I ain't never been on the internet before. So I was like, let me protect myself from these spirits a little bit. I'll rock the mala today.
Yeah. I see. But have you tried, because I was curious, like if you've gone into like meditation or tried anything like that?
Honestly, man, I think we all go into a form of meditation at some point. It all depends what exactly you're doing. Like, for example, when you're doing that 12-mile run, I guarantee you were meditating at some point through there, through a large chunk of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes people talk about it when they're driving. They'll lose chunks of the road. That's almost like a form of meditation itself, where you kind of go zen.
Yeah.
Even today when I was hitting the bag, my last round, I was able to really zone in and lose myself and not feel any of my injuries or not feel any of the injuries or tears, and just kind of be able to flow again. I don't sit down and cross my legs and go kumbaya and hum.
Yeah,
you know, I'm not really that type of guy. That's not really my style. But I am a firm believer of centering yourself and allowing yourself to go with the flow of something, to give your brain a break almost.
Yeah.
Because outside of rest, we're just constantly worrying and thinking. Sometimes it's good just to let go and run for a little bit. And I find that the form of meditation that helps me the most.
What advice would you give someone? I mean, we kind of started this conversation off talking about basically the rise of weakness in men.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like, I feel like I'm recently emerging out of weakness, to be honest. Like we're chatting now. I feel like I'm worthy of chatting with you today, but maybe 2 years ago or a year ago, you would have been like, I'm not really interested in fucking hanging with this guy. I think you genuinely, I don't know, you might have felt that way, you know?
I wasn't half the man I am today 2 years ago. We were on the same journey, brother.
Yeah, we're on the same journey.
Yes, sir.
What are like the most important things, I guess, that you could have told? I don't know. I don't know if it's applicable to say a younger version of yourself, because it seems like you were getting after it from a young age, but like a young man starting out, you know, like what are the things to take on or watch out for that can make you resilient and classically manly in this world? One is to figure out what your priorities are. Too many people in this world, they only listen to their parents, their coach, or their priest, or maybe even a teacher, and then they invest so much in a certain person that isn't the person they want to be, and then they get sad, they get depressed, and all these things. They have all these regrets. So one of the first things, as I honestly think a man, is find out who you are and what you want to do, with your life. Yeah. I mean, if you want to travel the world and do stupid shit, all right, whatever. If you want to work out and get fit, all right, whatever. If you want to be a rave dude, whatever. But it's better off just stepping away from your parents and stepping away from all the people that have been telling you what to do, and figure out what you want to do. Because until you figure out what you want to do, anything you're going to do is going to be forced. Besides that, you need to learn how to defend yourself. I honestly think every man, not because you need to be able to whoop every man's ass, but because you need to be humbled. It's very hard to be an asshole to everybody you see when you get choked out twice a week at jiu-jitsu or something. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or when you hit pads and your coach is telling you you're still doing the jab wrong. That humblingness as a man is very, very good to get rid of all those insecurities, because too many men walk around kind of boistering and chest checking and all this stuff, but they've never been in any physical altercation in their life. Or if they have, they sucker punched a dude at a bar once and ran away, and now they act like they've won 10 bar fights. You know what I mean? Yeah. Those are the type of dudes you normally see. But John Jones, for example, he's never been in a street fight.
You know, you never hear about John Jones going out to the club and beating a whole bunch of dudes. It's why? Because he's humbled. He doesn't need to go that. He doesn't need to prove anything to anybody. So the second thing I would say is to get in some form of martial art combat just so you can be humbled and understand where you are in the world, and then realize it's okay to be a white belt. It's okay to be a beginner. You don't have to be the toughest guy in the world, you know? But I think that self-peace, until you realize where you are, that gives a lot of men a lot of anxiety. I've seen it especially in the clubs and especially in college, where a lot of men, they don't know where they stand. And I've heard this too many times. Size doesn't matter. Or you're big for nothing. I've knocked out dudes as big as you before. I'm like, what are you talking about? We're just hanging out, man. Like, you know, it's like those insecurities pop up. Be like, you need to work that out. And number 3, and this is honestly a big one, is reproducing isn't the number one priority.
Oh yeah.
Not when you're 22 years old and you don't know anything about life, man. If you spent, it'd be like if could you imagine if a juvenile lion was running around trying to just fuck all the lionesses all the damn time? It's like, bro, you got to grow up and get your mane. You got to acquire some stuff before if this is your priority. You know, you're wasting time chasing tail when you should be building yourself a little bit. So obviously it's okay to have a girlfriend in your young 20s. I had a girlfriend in my young 20s, but your entire life purpose shouldn't be work out, get on Tinder, get babes, because you're not building any depth in yourself as a man. And if you're not building any depth or acquiring anything, by the time you become a man, what type of woman are you going to be able to get? You know, good women don't want just gym frat bros that have been on Tinder for 7 years straight, you know, and then don't be surprised when you can't get a good woman. Those are the type of dudes that are sitting around here like, all women are dumb. All women ain't dumb. All women ain't hoes. But the ones you're dealing with are because you're dumb and you're a hoe.
Dude, savagery. Yeah, this kind of brings me to the topic of women and dating, because, you know, lately what's been working well in terms of views on my channel is this sort of like red pill content. I'm glad. I like your
R.I.P. Kevin Samuels. R.I.P. the GOAT.
The GOAT, yeah. I guess I'd just be curious, since you've spoken so candidly on so many topics. What are your views on some of these principles in the red pill, like their thoughts on marriage, dating dynamics? I guess what do you look for, red flags and green flags, in the dating world, and what is your philosophy around partnership?
I'm going to seem kind of sexist when I say this, but honestly, I have no interest in aggressive women. Women who are very alpha, very manly, who are all about their business, simply because, one, I don't need that much confrontation back and forth as a man. And two, as a provider, that's not something I'm looking for. I'm looking for a partner. Yeah. As somebody that, I mean, you would classify me as an alpha male, I would much rather prefer a partner that'll help support me so I can support us. I don't need to compete with somebody every single day. And not saying I'm worried about competition, but it's just unnecessary. I mean, could you imagine if every time you brush your teeth, he was in the bathroom with you, seeing who could brush your teeth faster? It's like, bro, this is completely unnecessary. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to that, when it comes to women, I look for somebody that's nurturing. People say, I don't mean submissive as in like just sexually, but somebody who's just like, go with the flow. Like, hey, whatever you want, it's all good. Too many women I have met these days, when I sit down with them, all they want to talk about is their business, their drive, what they're doing, all this stuff going on, how busy they are. I'm like, man, you sound like a boyfriend. Like, it's not like I be dating a man. You're doing all the same shit I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think that's a big issue, is too many women think they need to be a man or be something they don't need to be to attract a good man. And I think a lot of women, because they have been hurt by men or their mothers have been hurt by men, they're teaching their daughters to do these things too, where it's like, don't get a man. You need to go to school. You need to get your degree. You need to do this. Don't have kids. You need to do this and do that. And then all of a sudden you're 32 years old and you're very aggressive with no prospects. You know, so my biggest thing when it comes to women is just chill the fuck out.
Chill the fuck out.
Just chill the fuck out. Like,
I think, I think we've done it to each other. Like both genders have done it to each other. Like the guys, I mean, some of the women in my life have complained like the guys aren't, it's almost like a lot of guys don't enjoy the provider role like they once did. Obviously, like some things are no longer relevant. Like we don't, most of us don't use our physical prowess to acquire resources. Like my ability to chop wood is not going to help me provide for a family as much as it would have some time ago. So like men and like in the corporate world, I feel like honestly, like I was always shit at the corporate world because I can't deal with the jargon and the politics and the the getting aligned and the circling back and all this conversation.
It's the same reason I don't coach football anymore. Yeah. I'm like, all this politics over nothing.
I feel like some of the women I have known are better at the diplomacy of what corporate life has required. So some like I don't know, friend girls from high school have like done better than me in the corporate world because they'll like come across as way better in the meeting. But then I'll just be like, why are we here? It's kind of like my energy, even if I don't say it. Yeah. So it's like basically what I'm trying to say is like women have caught up to men in their ability to provide. In the modern world, it's, you know, everyone, we're equal in that capacity.
100% equal, but the biology and the psychology hasn't changed for human and women. So that's why I think we're having so many of these struggles in the dating scene where men are okay with not being the provider role because women can provide for themselves, but that psychological serotonin boost that women get when you just pay for the fucking meal, that hasn't gone away. That's the same boost they got when you killed the mammoth and brought the meat back home. Where a lot of guys, like little things like that, like you don't have to pay all the bills to be a provider. You can still be a man and split things 50-50, but in certain situations, be a man, like be chivalrous. You know, you can afford to pay for the Chipotle and guac for the dang girl. She doesn't have to pay for it, you know, but that doesn't mean you have to pay her light bill or pay her car note and all these other things too. So I think a lot of men, they take it a little too far, same way as women have taken too far, where it's like, oh, women can earn all their money, I don't have to do any of that stuff anymore. Where it's like part of it is tradition, but part of it is, you know, a woman wants a man who is a provider, because all the way back in the day, you had to go out and hunt and chop the wood and bring all the stuff back. The equivalent of that now is just swiping your dang credit card, bro.
Dude, just as how much you'd say a girl gets a serotonin boost when the guy pays, I get the boost when I pay.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, I fucking pay.
Exactly.
And when I didn't have a decent income coming in,
shouldn't have been taken out on a date anyway, bro.
Yeah, nothing depressed me more. I mean, no one wanted to date me when I had no money, you know. But like, that was like multiple factors, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mastered the art of the nature walk date at that time. Yes, it was hey, let's go on a nature walk. That's free.
That's good of you. I honestly, when I was completely broke, my psychology was just obsessed with that. Like I couldn't even get excited about dating because I was like, I'm fucking broke. Like I hate this too much. Like, why am I on a date? I need to not be this way, you know, ideally. But like, I feel like I have a strong provider instinct. It just feels good where I'm like, yeah, I make the fucking money and I can pay for shit.
Bring home the fucking bacon.
Yeah, I do. I like that. I like it fulfills something in me. And sometimes in the last 2 years when I've gone on a date and I have come across someone who maybe they're not even trying to be like, I'm a strong, independent woman. Like they're just trying to like be equal because that's what they want. I'm like, let me fucking do something. Like I need something. If you're not going to let me pay, I don't know, give me a hammer and let me try to fix something because I need to just feel useful.
Just go to their house and start hanging up stuff, you know, and start building stuff, you know, that'll get those same juices flowing.
I'm like, I need the juices just as much as you, lady. We got to do something around here. But like a lot of the classic red pill advice, this is like the older, I feel like there's two on YouTube today. There's the older red pill, like the men's personal development crowd. Basically their whole vibe is like fuck women and fuck marriage. Just like extract sex from the woman and then abandon her. Like if you get sex and you don't have to give out as much, like you didn't pay for that, then you won.
I bet if you made a Venn diagram of those men and men with mother issues, it'd look like a circle. Yeah, that's not healthy. You shouldn't be looking at women in that capacity, especially when we all came from a woman.
Yeah, I do. A lot of them just went through like heinous divorces, and so it just has completely the vibes that I get from their content. I'm like, damn, dude, like I don't want to be like you.
So my thing when it comes to people, it's not necessarily the red pill thing, but people like that who are willing to ostracize an entire group of people based off their one or two experiences. I'm like, as somebody that grew up as a mixed child in southern Minnesota, I went to like a 99% white high school. Yeah. How's that any better than racism? You're going to judge and group half the people on the planet, mind you, all from different cultures, different countries, different upbringings. You're going to group them all together because they have the same genitals and say that they all act the same. Well, that's the same as saying like we all act the same because we're team Mocha Choco. What did you call us?
Mocha chocolate, baby.
Yeah, Mocha chocolate. So to me, I just look at them just like, you're ignorant, man. You're ignorant because my relationship with you isn't going to be the same as every relationship I meet with every Indian dude in the world. My relationship with him isn't going to be the same as every relationship I have with every Caucasian man in the world.
Yeah.
You know, every relationship is individual between themselves. I've had girls fuck me over. I've fucked over girls. I've had girls be great to me. I've had dudes fuck me over. I've had dudes been great to me. I've had dudes been fucking do some terrible things to me. But that doesn't mean that dudes are bad. That doesn't mean that women are bad. That doesn't mean that Indian people are bad. People fucking suck.
Yeah.
You know, but that doesn't mean you got to say they all suck.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the older demographic, and they're like, it's like they're very anti-marriage now. I guess, what are your thoughts on like love, partnership? How do you think the dating apps have affected the way people connect? I guess I'm trying to extract your take on the red pill because I feel like there's something juicy in that.
Number one, let's see. So because of dating apps, we've made marriage damn near impossible, at least in the way that it was with our grandparents. Because you got to think, grandparent in Minnesota, you go to a town of what, like 200 fucking people. You graduated with 12 of them. Only 3 of those girls are fuckable. You married one of them. The 2 other ones got married off, and you have no contact with them. Really hard to cheat.
Yep.
Right now, I just open up my phone and sign in, and there's 300 girls within 10 miles that I can go cheat on at any single moment.
Yep.
And on top of that, I know I said the most important thing in the world isn't reproducing, but that is the game that everything on this planet is playing 24/7, baby. Grass is releasing pollen. Mama bears are fighting for their cubs. Sharks are giving birth. We're giving birth. Everybody's trying to reproduce as much as possible. So we all as human beings have that drive to want to get something, want something. And people always joke, new pussy is always better than old pussy. It's because if I have already impregnated my wife, I still need to spread my seed. That means I need to go to other women. I know people don't think that in depth, but that's the thing that's going on in your brain right there. You're just trying to spread your genetics over and over and over again because that's all we're hardwired to do. Things like Tinder and dating apps and plus all the excuses that men get and all this red pill bullshit that you're talking about that gives these men these justifications to go this way is what's hurting the relationship and marriage more than anything else. It's just that we have too many damn options now. And so many people are too scared or not man enough to realize that you're being a bitch and you're listening to your dick too much, man.
Yeah.
You know, like at a certain point, you need to stop just being run by that head and listen to this head, because I've cheated before. It brings a lot more drama and bullshit in your life than anything good. I mean, having multiple women, that's a huge fucking pain in the ass. I got to maintain all these relationships. I got to maintain all these lies. Heaven forbid I actually accomplish the goal of getting them all pregnant. Now I got to take care of all these. There's no benefit at all, right? To have all these women. It's nothing but negativity. Where if you find one partner and one supportive woman that you can grow and have a relationship and, you know, become the person you want to be and then eventually become the father that you want to be and build a beautiful life, that is far more fulfilling than busting 50 nuts and 50 Instagram hoes. Far more fulfilling. So I think that is the thing that men need to realize is just because the buff guy on Instagram said that marriage is wrong doesn't mean it's wrong for you. It was wrong for him. Shit, I bet when he's 70 and he's alone in bed dying, he wishes that he had a woman and his grandkids holding his hand, not some Instagram thought he swiped his card for. I guarantee it.
How do you deliver this so poetically? It's like you say it all so efficiently. It's amazing.
It's coming out the face hole. I don't know. I don't really think about it, to be honest.
Dude, I kind of arrived at the same conclusion maybe like a month ago, honestly, because I would listen to some of these red pill channels. At first, it was kind of like a guilty pleasure, and then I found myself genuinely agreeing with some of the tenets. Like one of them was, some of the young guys say this too, but one of them is like, why get married as a guy, especially if you're a high status guy, right? Because you don't need to. You can settle down way later. Especially, I'm like 29. Theoretically, according to one guy in particular, his motto, he's a YouTuber I respect, he would say like, you know, basically your ability to attract women is only going to increase. If I keep working out this much, it'll probably peak at like 35, you know? So why not just keep building power until then, just like keeping every woman casual and then just keep building and rising up. And then when you finally feel like you want to have kids, have a kid. But I'm looking at that path and I'm realizing, oh, maybe that actually maybe I would just enjoy getting married like soon.
So
you know?
Remember the big Bruce Lee quote with Jeet Kune Do that everyone always remembers is, be like water. When you go in the teapot, become the teapot. When you go in the bottle, become the bottle. people don't need to put these rigid structured templates on their life. Like I didn't mean to laugh at you, but when you said the whole like growing muscle thing and then when I'm 35 this happens, I'm just like, what are you talking about?
He breaks it down that
you might get hit by a fucking car and a paraplegic tomorrow, man, and then you're gonna be like, man, I waited till I was 35. You know what I'm saying? So I honestly think that focus more on just living your life instead of following somebody else's template, and you're gonna enjoy your life a lot more.
No, for sure. For sure. And I think I have arrived at the same conclusion that you said just a few minutes ago, where it's just like, I mean, if you're just looking at it from the point of view of sex, isn't that kind of just boring? Actually, like, you change out the partner, but like, if you're just talking about the motion, the friction.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to be honest, y'all, after 5 strokes, every girl feels about the same. Honestly, like it's not that big of a fucking difference. Some of them maybe scream a little more in your ear, but it's like, dude, you don't need to go fuck every single girl in the world. Like you can fuck one and it'll be okay. Like you're not missing out that much. Yeah, it's not that big of a deal.
No, I think I agree with you.
Like I agree 100. If it's only about sex, that's what, less than 1% of your time you spend with a girl is spent having sex. I mean, maybe like 10% for you. You might last a little longer than me. I don't know. But it's not that much time as opposed to dates, meeting the family, watching movies. Although that's what the majority of your time is spent doing. Right.
I was going to say, I'm on 15 days no fap today, my guy.
15
days? So man, I would not last.
Sounds.
You're looking real cute right now.
Oh, man. 15 days. I don't think I've gone more than 2 days since I discovered masturbation. I'm going to be honest with you. Dude, after 2 days, I start looking at women who are not as attractive as I normally go for a lot differently. And like, you know, you ever seen in the movie where the guy is like thinking about something and then he's got like the little devil version of himself right here whispering as the little angel? Yes. 2 days of not jerking off for me is like 2 devils and they're both lawyers. And they're both making a whole bunch of fucking sense. They're like, nobody would ever find out, Tony. And I'm like, damn, what do you think? And he's like, he's right. Nobody would ever know. We can get away with this. Look, she lives 3 blocks away. All right, no one's going to see you walk home. It's 1:30. Everyone's going to get last call. And I'm just like,
yeah,
15, impressive.
It's not a feedback. Yeah, sometimes I wonder because I've preached the benefits of not masturbating too often on my channel. It's a real through line of my channel. I do think it's from an energy standpoint, like it gives me a little more. Like, you know, fighters have talked about this and stuff.
Yeah, I think Mike Tyson talked about it, yeah.
Yeah, a few of them. Yeah. A lot of people, it's been murmured through history about, like, when you don't bust, you're just, like, a little bit more intense. Like, your testosterone goes up after 7 days even.
God, I'd hate to do 15 days, then I'd probably explode, man.
Yeah, what are your testosterone levels? They must be sky high.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I started balding in my late 20s, so probably pretty high. I heard that's a side effect.
Yeah, you pull it off. Yeah, fantastic.
Oh, don't worry, I'm not insecure.
Yeah, I know you're not.
I ain't got the gorilla head, and that was the one thing I was worried about. Getting a gorilla head, but I'm all good.
Dude, I don't even know if it's about the hair. I think it's that the jawline has to hit hard. You got to,
because if you don't have a jawline, you just look like a penis.
Yeah.
So the jaw prevents the penis look and gives you a human face look. You're right. I think
you know what? I've been watching some guys who like break down like what makes an attractive face. Like they break it down analytically. Mm-hmm. You have to have like a compact mid face, hunter eyes, and a jawline. I think you've got all 3, my guy. Nice. It must be nice being you.
Nah, it's really hard.
Really?
Yeah, I get sexually assaulted by overweight short women all the time. And I get my ass grabbed. I look and they're just giggling and laughing. I walk down the street. I get catcalled by construction workers. It's difficult, man.
Is that the number one demographic that just thinks they can touch you? Is short, overweight women?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I would not see that coming.
Yeah, no, I definitely, especially working in the clubs, it's happened over 100 times easily. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. I mean, it's not one of those things. No, I guess that is the messed up thing about being a man, where it's like, we should take this seriously, but I'm like, no, we don't need to take it seriously. It's like, wait, maybe we should say take it seriously.
Yeah.
But nah, it's not that big of a deal. I'm flattered more than anything but then again, it's because I'm not under any threat. Whereas if I was a small woman and a big guy did that to me, I might not be able to defend myself. So I understand, there is a huge difference in those situations.
I guess being like a half black Viking guy, you don't have the same stigma that some of the Indian boys do, but I have often had a chip on my shoulder. I wonder, and this is something that some other people have said, is like Indian guys are not perceived as manly or attractive in the West. This is what, I mean, I don't know if I necessarily agree with this, but like this is what someone has told me.
You guys, so I would say you guys are either A+ or D-. There's not a lot of middle ground. It's kind of like Asian girls, you know? They're either like super, super foreign and stay in their little clique and wear jeans that are too thick and you can't see anything, or they're just like smoking hot.
Yeah.
You know, so there's no real middle ground. I think the same thing with Indian dudes. Luckily, I think you're more on the chiseled jawline, you know, nice hair side of things. So you lucked out, man. Or maybe you just ran yourself into this over the past 2 years, like you said. I don't know. Don't worry. You're not in the D- category. At least you worked out enough to get out of it.
Yeah. Thank you, bro. Yeah. That brings me to this point is like, I think a lot of it is excuses. Like people, do you think many men, like you are genetically blessed in many ways, but do you think many men who aren't, do you think a man can rise up in ranking as an attractive package with inferior genetics? Let's say like a 5'7" balding guy, but not with like a handsome black features, like, you know, balding guy, 5'7". Could he have a shot at like leaving an impact with not with romance?
How tall
but
was
also,
Napoleon?
Yeah. Napoleon was short as fuck.
Yeah. One of my ancestors, we talked about the Ragnar and Rolla Lothbrok, but one of my ancestors was Ivar the Boneless, somebody that they thought was paralyzed from the waist down. You know, so a man's, they always say the soldier's greatest weapon is his mind. The mind is the tool that needs to be sharpened more than anything else, because the sexiest thing on a person is confidence. More than anything. I'm sure every woman in here would rather be with a confident balding dude than a big insecure oaf who's always self-conscious and insecure. That shit gets tired really fast. Yeah. So I think confidence, not to the point of cockiness or, you know, being standoffish or put off, but confidence, that belief in yourself and trust in yourself, you can go, sky's the limit for you in this world. You know, obviously you're limited by who you meet and, you know, certain situations where you work, all those stupid little things, but I don't think anyone's stature will ever hold them back. More people know who Peter Dinklage is than me or you, right? He's a fucking midget. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You know, so stature doesn't make the man in my eyes. I mean, yes, it does help in physical confrontations and being a presence in rooms, but in this world, I mean, how tall is Bill Gates? He's not, more people will know about Bill Gates when he dies than Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He will leave a greater impact on this world than The Rock will, simply through all of the things he has acquired, all the philanthropy he's done. I mean, here's some sketchy, you know, conspiracy theories about the dude, but you know, he is going to leave a much larger impact with half of the physique. So yes, I think the physique definitely helps, but it doesn't define you. Have you ever read The Odyssey?
No.
So you heard of Helen, Troy, all that stuff?
Of course, yeah.
So when the Battle of Troy basically was like the Super Bowl of fucking Greece, right? Because it was the largest fight of all time. Agamemnon finally got all his Greek homies and all them to go to Troy. They're finally going to take the city. He was going to unite all Greece, all that stuff, right? So since it was a Super Bowl, obviously all the all-stars were there of the entire Greek kingdom. And the greatest warrior in all of Greece was Achilles. And the smartest man in all of Greece was Odysseus. And the one thing I remember from reading the Iliad, when they're sitting down by the campfire and right before Odysseus comes up with the idea for the Trojan horse, he's talking to Achilles and he says, "You have your sword, I have my wits. We play with the toys that God's gave us." Right? So instead of sitting here and worrying about his sword or his wits, play with the toys God gave you, because that's all you got anyway, man. And
I think, yeah, you know what though? You were saying this right before we started training today. You're like, it's hard to take dating advice seriously from you're like, is it because I give good advice, or is it just because I'm handsome and dumb?
Yeah, when your pickup line is, "Hi, I'm Tony," you know, you're probably not the best at dating advice now.
So someone out there is gonna be like, "Yeah, but he's a 6 foot," you know. But I do agree with you. And confidence does carry you far. It's like I'm trying to figure out where confidence comes from. I'm still trying to become more confident. You know, I'm like I'm not arrived in that sense. Something that has given me confidence is the efforts I've taken on recently. But honestly, a lot of this is a very new discovery for me. I'm like, oh man, it's tough though, because the car doesn't give you confidence. Even 500,000 subscribers on YouTube doesn't really give you confidence. Like my first 5 months in Campiones, and I said this when Henry was on the podcast, he was our first guest. I was like, nice. I wanted to ask a guy where he gets his shorts. And I was like, I can't go up to another dude and ask him like, "Hey dude, I like your shorts." Like that was me just like a couple months ago, you know? So even the fact that I hit you up, I guess earlier this week, this all came around pretty fast. I think I would have been too scared 6 months ago. What are some of the leverages for pushing confidence? Like, where does it come from?
Like I said, like we were talking about before, all
Yeah.
the things that you've been doing.
Yeah.
I mean, working on yourself, not worrying about pleasing others, because you're not going to gain confidence by pleasing your mother. You're not going to gain confidence by pleasing the other. All you're doing is feeding into that pleasing people thing where you need to do something for somebody else to make yourself happy. And that's not what confidence is. Confidence is knowing that you're doing the right thing, not worrying about pleasing other people. So like I was saying, doing things for yourself and working on yourself, not to the point of selfishness where you're just like, oh, screw everybody, you know, I'm
Yeah.
gonna block everybody out. It's all blinders. Who cares what anybody else is doing? No, but don't be afraid to take some things off your plate so you can do more things for yourself. For example, last year at this time, I was coaching semi-professional football. I was coaching football. I was taking jiu-jitsu. I was running my training business. I was working security. I was being there for my guy. I was doing all these things where eventually I stopped being able to give as much of myself to all of those things, right? So I had to humble myself and be like, maybe I can't do this much right now. Take a couple things off the plate and then give more to myself to the 4 things I prioritize. And my confidence went up because I wasn't constantly stressed all the time. My energy levels went up because I wasn't thinking about 16 different things all the time. So 1, focusing on fixing yourself, but 2, not being afraid to take things off the plate a little bit sometimes.
No, that's great. Because we're coming down to the final segment of the conversation, and normally what I end this each chat with is like the 5 big principles that we gathered over the course of this conversation.
Okay.
So maybe you and I can just like break down what's happened so far. I feel like this has been the best episode for me personally, just out of like humor, enjoyment. Some people, they're good guests, but then they're just like, it's just one beat, and you just have this amazing ability to be like serious and say something profound, and then just like say that someone's chin looks like a dick if they don't have,
I appreciate it.
You break that up so well. So
I've smooth talked a lot of panties, so I appreciate a lot of reps. No, I'm just playing.
You got the right, yeah. So yeah, it's been a real fun episode, but let's just break down what we've covered so far. So the very first principle that I got from this episode is that your perceived effort in life and your self-knowledge from that effort is what gives you status and confidence. Not a lot of the things that people look to for validation.
100%. I could agree with that.
Yeah. I'll just go immediately into the second big thing that I got is, this was a little further into the conversation, but you talked about how, well, we talked actually a lot about like the pussification of men. That was actually the start of the conversation.
Yeah, in as nice a words as I possibly could come up with, don't be a bitch.
Don't be a bitch.
Just don't be a bitch. I mean, we all have that voice inside. We all have that voice inside of our head. I mean, you probably heard it yesterday on that run, I guarantee it, where it's just like, you ain't got to finish this, bro. You can stop right here. You went far enough. You're good. You can stop right now. The reason that gym and working on yourself, I think, is so important is because you get to whoop that little bitch's ass a little bit every single day. And every single day that you work on yourself, I mean, it could be things outside the gym as well. I mean, like you said, your father's never bench pressed, but I guarantee that voice in him that's a bitch, he can't even hear that motherfucker anymore, right?
Yeah.
So every single time you work on yourself and you're developing these things, that voice gets quieter and quieter and quieter and quieter and quieter. I still hear mine sometimes.
Yeah.
Today I was hearing them when I was hanging upside down on the damn rings. I was like, all right, you don't need to do one more. Your right arm's hurting. You tore your bicep. No, fuck that. Let's keep going. Let's get better today. So don't be a bitch, and realize that every single person is hearing that same voice too. And every time they go for another rep, they told it to shut the fuck up. So you can tell it to shut the fuck up too.
Yeah. I guess that brings me to the third big, and also if you want to interject with your own thoughts.
No.
The third big idea that I got from you is go with the most empowering narrative for your life story. Don't use your trauma as an excuse for the way you treat people, the way you treat yourself, the standards you set for yourself. Just because your parents were mean to you when you were 5 doesn't mean you get to be like, you get to lie to people or whatever. Go with the most empowering version of the story. We had a very different childhood. You had it. I mean, you almost you say it so casually that one almost can easily gloss over the fact that it was a fucking tough. Some elements of that were very tough.
It was difficult. As one thing I've learned though, children are just living their lives.
Yeah.
So it's not until we're adults that we look back and we start pointing fingers and blaming and saying it was terrible. But when you're a kid, you're just living it. They're
Yeah.
just living it. And I agree 100%. I see way too many people that will treat people like shit, and then when confronted, they'll blame something that happened 17 years ago or something. You know what I'm saying? Where you can do that, but that just means you're going to be a shitty person and be shitty to people forever. If you're okay with doing that, and I won't say be a loser, but just be somebody who's not about self-growth or about improving themselves, just know that you're not going to advance. You're not going to get any better. You're taking the easy way. It's easy to blame mama. The hard way is to blame yourself, look in the mirror, say, stop, like we were saying, stop being a bitch and be better to other people.
This YouTuber that I would watch a lot in previous years, Sneeko, he has this line. It's a pretty good line. He just says, everybody's got something. So just don't use your something as an excuse. You know,
I like
everyone's got something. Maybe your parents, maybe you grew up in a really rich neighborhood and your parents coddled you too much, and your something is that you feel like you never got a chance to prove it for yourself. Then you could turn that into an excuse. When I was a teacher, a lot of my students were super rich, and a lot of these rich kids were just total fucking lazy douchebags. You know, and I'm like, oh. But then sometimes there would be the rich kid who's also just a savage, and he like was an amazing hockey player who went on to go to Harvard and like killed it with every homework assignment. It's like just go with the most empowering narrative, and that's what I really appreciate about you. Is like it's like your baseline language is always very empowered. Like keep the accountability on the self, and that's been a big thing for today.
Because you can only control what you can control. So either control it or stop worrying about it.
Yeah.
There's no point in stressing or doing all this extra stuff. It's like, if I can change it, I'll change it. If I can't change it, the fuck am I worried about it for?
Yeah. It's weird, but like I think number 4 might be sex is overrated, or sex can be overrated. Stop thinking with your dick so much, you know?
Which I guarantee people would be surprised is coming from me. No.
It comes from a deep level of experience.
No, but honestly, it's because I see that the only time a bear will sacrifice itself is to save her cubs. Any other time it's fighting to the death, or it's getting the fuck out of there. That's the only time it'll be like, I'm okay with dying. Same with lions. Grass, like we're saying, is always trying to pollinate, saving flowers. It's the one thing I noticed that everything on the planet needs to do. It's the number one drive. Mantises. He knows the female mantis is going to rip his head off and eat him, but he's just doing it just so he can bust that damn nut. The one thing us human beings have is we're able to think. Why, as men, are we allowing ourselves to be enslaved by the same thing that's enslaving fucking praying mantises?
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to screw over your whole life or set yourself back for some pussy, man. And especially when it comes to like cheating on your girlfriend, you're really gonna complicate your relationship and complicate your home just so your boys can say you look cool and you remember sticking your dick in a wet hole a couple of months. It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
It's not worth it.
No, not at all.
Last big takeaway. I guess what would you say is like the one big thing you'd want viewers to walk away with?
Remember at the end of the day that you're going to have to live with yourself, not your parents, not your mother, not your teacher, not your friends in college, all that. Every single day you're going to have to look in the mirror. So every time you make a choice, make sure that you're able to live with yourself with those choices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this has been an episode, a hell of an episode of the Becoming the Killer podcast, dude. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you,
Little
sir.
fist bump for you.
You.
Tony doesn't have any digital products because he's still a caveman, but I'm going to help him get some things going. But he does have an Instagram, and he's cool as fuck. So follow him on Instagram. You can also follow me on Instagram if you'd like to. I put up content related to growing on YouTube, cinematography, personal development for creatives, and a little bit of fitness on the side. We also have a YouTube Academy that we are launching on September 1st. I am stopping one-on-one coaching because I overfilled the slots. I ended up coaching 25 people in 6 weeks' time and realized there was too much interest for one-on-one. So a lot of these systems that I would do with my one-on-one clients, some of whom have gone on to make videos with hundreds of thousands of views, we're putting this into 12 modules and a group coaching program. So if that's something that you're curious about, there's a link in the description you can check out to sign up for an application, and you can book a discovery call with me and we can see if you're a good fit for the program. It's a 6-week program to help you learn basically what it takes to get 100,000 views on a YouTube video. And 100,000 views, if you can start getting that consistently, that's worth millions of dollars a year. So if that's something that you want to do, you want to be a growing creative, look into that. I'm going to force this guy because everyone can obviously see he's like a star in the making. He should have been a bigger YouTuber than me by this point. It's just...
I'm a caveman. What can I say?
We got a caveman, a caveman who's read the Odyssey, no less. So this has been a great episode. The podcast is also, it can be found everywhere podcasts are found. Bro, this has been amazing. Thank you for coming on. Greatness is coming. We'll catch you guys next time. Cheers.